Earth's moon is special because there's really nothing like it in our solar system. Oh, other planets do have moons, but they're all tiny compared to their planets. Our moon, on the other hand, is fully a quarter the diameter of the Earth. We're more like a double planet rather than a planet and moon. And because of its great size, it has a big influence on us, raising tides and churning the oceans. And life on Earth would quite literally not be the same without it. But figuring out just how our moon formed is a major problem for astronomers. We thought we had a perfectly good theory for the formation of the moon, but recent work has thrown that theory into doubt. So now scientists like Dr. Robin Canup at the Southwest Research Institute in Boulder, Colorado, are once again searching for an answer to the question, where did the moon come from? Dr. Canup, welcome to Quirks and Quarks.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Now, first of all, let's just start with some basics here. What do we know for sure about how the moon was formed?
Well, we think that the moon is the result of a large collision with the Earth that occurred at the end of the Earth's formation some 4.5 billion years ago. We know that these large planetary collisions are common when you're forming Earth-sized planets, and we think that the collision was by another planet-sized object, an object having roughly the mass of Mars, and that collision ejected debris into orbit around the Earth, from which the moon then coalesced. Why do we think this so-called giant impact theory is correct? Well, it provides a natural explanation for the rotation rate of our Earth, which we see in our 24-hour day. It also produces the large mass of our moon, and it also produces a moon that is depleted in iron. In other words, that's lacking a large iron core in the same way that the Earth and other inner solar system materials have large iron cores.
Now, you were on our program several years ago talking about the Earth being hit by the Mars-sized planet and how that collision... Well, what's wrong with that idea?
Well, it turns out that idea explains most but not all of the features of the system. We get the right initial spin rate for the Earth, we get the right size of the moon, we get its iron depletion. The problem is the collision of a Mars-sized impactor with the Earth produces a debris disk around the Earth that originates from the impacting planet rather than the Earth. Now, why is that a problem? Well, we continue to study the lunar rocks brought back from Apollo. And we've known for a long time that the lunar rocks and the Earth's mantle rocks share the identical composition of oxygen isotopes. And this composition is very different from the meteorites that come from Mars, for example, or from most of the asteroid belt. So all the other materials we know about in the inner solar system have very different compositions, while the Earth and the moon are the same. So the problem is, if the impacting planet had a composition different from the Earth, as we think is probable, then in the conventional impact model, you form a debris disk around the Earth from the impacting object, and that should give you a moon that looks different from the Earth compositionally, and yet the Earth and moon are indistinguishable. And that's what has led us to think that we have a problem with the conventional giant impact theory.
Oh, I see. If the moon came from an alien object, it should be more alien, but it's not. It's more like the Earth.
Exactly. If you look at the moon, it looks as if it came right from the Earth's mantle.
It's really quite astounding that you're still getting information from those rocks brought back by the Apollo astronauts so many years ago.
So astounding. And it speaks to the incredible value of returned samples, because once you have those samples from another planetary object, time passes and your ability to study them in ways you never anticipated when you first collected them emerge.
Okay, so if the idea then that a Mars-sized object hit the Earth and created the moon is wrong, then what are the alternative theories?
One involves a sub-Mars impactor into an Earth that's already rotating with about a 2-hour day before the moon-forming impact, presumably due to a prior giant impact. And in a companion paper, I proposed at the same time that the moon formed from the collision of two like-size objects. In other words, an impactor that contained about half the Earth's mass. And in that type of collision, you're nearly symmetric, so that the ultimate disk that you form has about half impactor and half Earth material, but the final Earth also has half Earth and half impactor material. So the disk and the Earth can have identical compositions in the end.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get these two scenarios then. You're saying in one, there were two collisions, not one, and the first one spun the Earth up to get it going really fast, and the second one created the moon. And in the second scenario, the two objects that hit are the same size. The Earth and whatever hit it are the same size. They were both vaporized, formed one big mush, and then out of that came the Earth and Moon with the same composition. Is that the idea?
Exactly. So those are the two new impact scenarios, and what they have in common is they both produce a disk with the same composition as the Earth, so they solve this problem involving the oxygen and chromium and titanium similarities between the Earth and the Moon, but they both leave an Earth that's rotating much more rapidly than we would need for consistency with our 24-hour day. So they both require this process after the impact involving the sun slowed down the rotation of the Earth.
Boy, you got two problems here. One is the fact that the Earth and the Moon are the same composition, but the other is the spin of the Earth itself. How do you slow it down if it was spun up really fast at the beginning? So out of this, you got three scenarios that could give you one or the others. Which of these three scenarios is right?
I don't think there is a single one of these three that is clearly compelling compared to all the rest. So we also have to step back and question our assumptions, I think. For example, we've been assuming that the composition of the impacting planet would have been very different from that of the Earth. But of course, we don't actually know that. That's based on our understanding of Mars's composition, but for example, we don't actually know the isotopic composition of Venus, which is the planet most similar to the Earth in terms of both its size and its distance from the sun. So it may be that as we learn more about the composition of other objects in the inner solar system, this may change our assumption.
So you're saying that if Venus is like the Earth and the Moon is like the Earth, that maybe what hit us was like the Earth and not alien like Mars?
Exactly. If Venus turned out to have a composition similar to that of the Earth and Moon, it would completely change our thinking. And of course, there's always the chance that we've just missed something, and that there's an idea out there that we just haven't thought of yet.
Do you find it kind of odd that the more science we apply to this, the more mysterious the problem becomes?
Well, I often look up in the sky and I think it's a simple moon. It's just one moon. I mean, if you compare our system to the moons of Saturn, for example, where you have many moons and ring systems, ours is a very simple system. And yet, it's proved to be very complex to understand. And of course, we have the benefit of this wealth of data from the lunar samples. And so this is an example of where we should be able to get this right. And we should be able to really know how the moon formed. And once we do, and once we can explain all the data, then this is really the cornerstone for our understanding of how the planets in our whole inner solar system formed, and by extrapolation, how Earth-like planets form in other solar systems as well. So it's very important, and we're going to get it, but we don't have it yet, which is amazing.
Dr. Knupp, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Robin Knupp is Associate Vice President and Head of the Planetary Science Directorate of the Southwest Research Institute in Boulder, Colorado.
Hello everyone, Mike Shoesmith here. After listening to that, do you guys finally see why P.P. Simmons is so engaged in promoting the truth of the God did it mechanism for what we see around us? Because at the end of the day, the evolutionists, evolution being the engine which drives modern atheism, the evolutionists, they just don't know. They do not know. And when we listen to atheist and evolutionist friendly programs like this Quirks and Quarks, which is solely interested in, its sole interest is promoting deep time fish to man evolution. That seems to be the only reason this show, it's not even a science show, it's an indoctrination show into the worldview of atheism. And this is all subsidized by the Canadian taxpayer. And when these people get on these shows, which are friendly toward their worldview, you can really hear a lot of truth, because they feel that they're on friendly territory. They don't mind letting their guard down a little bit. So I like to listen to these shows whenever the opportunity comes up, and I'm ready. I'm on guard to listen for these types of admissions, because at the end of the day, they know nothing about a rock floating a mere 250,000 miles away from the Earth. She has admitted here that they know nothing about it. They don't know where it came from. They know that it is made up primarily of the same material that the Earth is made out of. They know that, but they now know that a collision with Mars did not cause the moon to form. So now they've had to go back to the drawing board on a rock floating 250,000 miles away. What does this tell us? Well, this should tell us, folks, that we can't trust them on the bigger issues, on the habitable planet issue. When you see headlines in the news saying scientists discover planet in habitable zone in a distant galaxy, that is nonsense. They don't even know how the moon got here. They have recently only discovered what it is made out of. Do you understand this? Do you guys understand why it's so important for P.P. Simmons to stay engaged in this? Because there is a war going on for the minds of the youth, of the young people. And we are obligated to point this out when finally the admissions surface that these people who are teaching our children, they do not know what they're talking about. And it's an embarrassment to them. And you as parents, you're obligated to point this out to your children, that the atheists with evolution as their creation myth do not know what they're talking about. And they're merely using your children as guinea pigs, teaching them lies, frauds, and stories that are kept in science textbooks as fact, being taught to your children as facts, which are nothing of the sort. These are not facts. And it was once taught as fact that scientists knew what the moon, how it got there and how it was made and what it was made out of. Now they're admitting, after all these decades, they don't have a clue how the moon got there. Well, we do, don't we? We know how the moon got there. But the explanation that they will accept does not include a transcendental source. They won't accept that. They'll keep plugging away at this because having a creator and proving that the anthropic principle is valid, that the moon and the earth were made with precise detail to provide a habitat for us. This is known. We know this. We've known this for a long time, folks. And the scientists are baffled by this. They're baffled by how the moon got here. We know how it got here, don't we? We have a witness, an eyewitness. We have an eyewitness. Jesus was there at creation. He knows how it all went down. And he gave us his word that that's how it happened. And listen, folks, you can trust it. You can trust it. And that's all we're saying. My name is Mike Shoesmith. Thank you for watching.